So we also have an energy and environment time bomb as well. So first of all, there is a bright silver lining to all of this, by the way. So the whole world loves GDP. You speak to any economist, they're all about GDP, GDP, growth, growth, growth. The thing is, the way things are set up, you can have 1,000 more Elon Musks and Steve Jobs and it won't make a damn difference. Because the reason it's different, like Easter Island is the prime example. It's a tiny island in the Pacific and they killed themselves. It was one of the most, in the area, it was one of the most prosperous little islands out there. And they're all like, growth, growth, growth. And because of that, they kept chopping down the trees. And when you get rid of the trees, you then lose the rooting system. So the soil then started eroding. Then the winds start getting rid of the soil. And before we know it, everyone died of starvation. That's long story short. The world is no different to Easter Island. It's just a bigger example of Easter Island. And we are focusing on the wrong metric. We're focusing on GDP at the detriment to the world. So there's a thing called the there's probably a better word. I call it the carbon-based global growth cap. And because we have a whole planet fixated on GDP, sorry, you can probably see blue better. In fact, can you hear me without the microphone? Maybe not then. So, looks like this. So, from year dot, basically the world has been doing this in terms of growth. But we are dialed into a fossil fuel-based infrastructure. So the whole world just uses fossil fuels. Fossil fuels are in your pharmaceuticals, your food, your medicine, everything. And so that's great if you have an unlimited supply of fossil fuels. We are literally living off dead dinosaurs. And so what we know for a fact is that there is a certain amount of fossil fuels left to extract. Now, technology has helped prolong this because we can now drill deeper for cheaper, etc. But in terms of this growth cap, we are now hitting the lower bandwidths of dead dinosaurs, basically. So we simply cannot grow indefinitely as we are right now, whilst we are plugged into a carbon-based energy, transportation, and communication network. So we have to shift. We have to get to renewable energy sources, and then we can grow. Then there is no cap to growth. Then 1,000 new Steve Jobs will make a dent. And there's a thing called aggregate energy efficiency decline. So long story short, if I'm a cheetah, no, I'm not. If a cheetah hunts down an antelope and kills the antelope and eats it, that cheetah will only get about 20% of the energy from the antelope. Okay, there's mass wastage of energy from kinetic energy in the running to heat, etc., and chemical energy, etc. So they only get 20% of the energy. This is exactly the same with countries. So the best the world has ever got was Japan at 18.5% aggregate efficiency. That was in the 1980s, just before they popped. Germany is right now, and has been for a long time, the world's most efficient country, but they're still hovering around 15%. Every other country is much lower, but the thing is, the whole world is declining when it comes to energy, aggregate energy efficiency. And so because of this cap and because of the efficiency, you cannot maintain way of life as it is until we literally go fully renewable or harvesting energy sources. There's another thing called the peak production curve. I know I'm throwing up information over to you, but it doesn't matter if you remember 5% of it. You'll get a feeling for what I'm talking about. So there we go. I need 3 hands. Oh wow! Yes.
And your glamorous assistant. Well, okay, not glamorous.
Okay, so when you look at oil peak production, you have this sort of a bell curve. Thank you. In fact, sorry. And this originally in the 50s was a theory, but it's now been proven correct. Basically, from when a country discovers an oil source, it takes roughly 35 years to reach peak production. So you find an oil well or a big deposit. It takes 35 years till you're maxing out, your barrels per day. And then it takes roughly another 35 years to completely empty that source. The crazy thing is, we hit. So as a planet, our max discovery was in the 1970s. Our peak production was in 2008, and we're screwed. 35 years from 2008 sort of coincides with a lot of other things I'm talking about. And yeah, now some politicians have paid some economists to try and eschew this bell curve here, and by including shale oil and gas. So when you include shale oil and gas, it does this. It's like this, but everyone knows it's a lie because it's a sham.